All right, guys. Hello. How y'all doing? Okay, so now listen. This is history right here, right in front of you. And what I need us to do, because Paula did not include the fact that she may have stalked me, but I am literally obsessed with this moment. And I want everyone in New York City and pretty much the world to hear our excitement, our appreciation, our joy at seeing these four women in their titles right in this very moment. Can we hear it? Come on, let's go. Yes! I mean, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. And I could not be prouder to be in this moment, to have the chance to talk to these ladies. We have had quite a time, even in the last, 10 minutes, because I've just been geeked out about it. And so I'm probably not going to read these questions that Judy so diligently also wrote, because this is my own conversation. I have the microphone. So this is basically my time. No, but I'm really, really, really honored that the four of you would be here, especially given that 2019 was such a marked year for all of us in this space, for us to see your faces, to understand your stories, to have hope about what you will do in the world after your reign. And this conversation is to really understand who you are as women, because yes, you are evolving the standard of beauty. And all of us are appreciative of that moment, especially in your own ways. So shall we get to it? Okay. So the first question, because now I have to get official. So obviously, like I said, this is history making. And I will have questions for each of you about your own experiences. But can you share with us what it feels like? I think for many of us in this room, and especially for me, of course, I was sitting in the panel during your competition. But as the titles were won, I mean, it was unbelievable. You know, I felt like I kept celebrating and kept celebrating and kept celebrating. And I was like, damn it, I'm so excited. But from your perspective, can you give us some insight into how it felt to join the sisterhood together?
Well, for me, I always speak about how, growing up, watching TV, opening magazines and not being able to see myself reflected in the media, not being able to have people that I look up to as my role models. It really does something to someone, especially a young girl, if you don't see yourself out there. And so I really do believe that we can't be what we can't see. And so with all of us here, I think it's a possibility for all, young women and young girls to finally, see their faces reflected in ours, and that when they look at us, they can finally see that, they too can do something for themselves.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think it's even more exciting to be a part of it and to watch it unfold. I mean, you were saying that you were watching as, one happened after another. I remember sitting in my seat watching Teen USA happen, because Miss USA and Miss Teen USA, the finals happened like just a couple of days apart. And I remember watching Kaylee win. And I think many people believe in the sense of tokenism. It's something that I sort of suffered from as well, because when Kaylee won, I was like, oh, there's no way that I can win. Because look, we've got this person who's, she's a light-skinned, beautiful woman of color with curly hair. Like, why are they going to crown another 3 days afterwards? And then they did.
I mean, come on. Yes.
And I think it's so exciting for people to see that, and to see, like, not only can there be more than one of us, there can be 5 out of 5. And I think that spoke to me. Yes. And I think being a part of that moment, it just made it all the more real and profound.
Mm-hmm. By the way, we can hallelujah and amen and catch the spirit and run around if we feel like it. Okay? We're family up in here. Okay? Yes.
I feel like for me, being at the place I am, like just starting college, I feel like it's not graspable yet for me to fully wrap my head around that, like, I'm a part of history. And that's that's really cool.
Yes, you say that, girl. Say that. Yes, you are.
And so seeing that I, myself, and all of us have such an impact, and I see these pictures of little girls reenacting like our crowning moments on like Instagram, and I'm just like people know who I am. Like that's crazy to me. And so being able to know that my voice is getting out there, and that I'm able to spread positivity and show that the face of beauty is changing, and it's that it can look different is just amazing to me.
Yes, fantastic.
Well, I am no longer the reigning Miss America. I actually just crowned my successor in December, and I released a single, so I'm on to other things now. Go check out my single, Earth Sun, streaming now.
Exactly. Yes, queen. Come on.
But
Once a queen, always a queen. Let's do
thank
it.
you. But when I did win, I remember it was in 2018. I'm Miss America 2019, but I actually won in September of 2018. And I had no idea that 5 months later that these two would win just several days apart, and then everyone was just talking about it, and they still are. I'm not even the current Miss America anymore, and people are still seeing this as a significant moment in history, and that really means the world to me. As a girl that grew up going to school with mainly white people, I went to a mainly Caucasian school, I never felt beautiful. I never even thought that I could be Miss America. I didn't dream of that. So to have this, it's so symbolic to those little girls and boys out there that feel that maybe they're not enough because they're of color and they feel like they can't achieve certain dreams. Now they can see a physical representation of that through us, and that's just a blessing to me.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations again. I mean, like I said, the rolling winds. I mean, I just talk about catching the spirit. Every time I'd be like, ha! You know, I was so excited. So I'm extraordinarily happy about the history of this moment. But I know, Chesley, your mom was the second Miss North Carolina, Black Miss North Carolina, to win. And I want to understand from you, your perspective. I mean, clearly that was history in and of itself. And so how did you decide to even run? What was your thought process? And what happened when Mom found out?
Well, I think it goes back to what we've talked about and seeing someone and believing that, you know, you could do something because you saw it happen. Mm-hmm. So my mom, she did a pageant for married women, Mrs. North Carolina, U.S. She won in 2002. And I remember, I mean, it's like burned into my mind. I remember when she did a parade in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm from. She was coming down Trade Street, and I'm sitting on the sideline, you know, waiting for my mom to come. And literally, she comes rolling by in a white horse-drawn carriage. Not joking, this really happened. She's wearing this like mint green two-piece gown, and this is literally her on the thing just waving as she like goes by, and I was like, I want to be her. And so I remember I did my first competition when I was in high school, and my mom was my inspiration from that time on. I just wanted to be what she embodied for me. She would talk about have parents volunteering in their kids' schools, and people listened when she opened her mouth. And I wanted to have that same effect on people, and I wanted that same opportunity to spread a message that was important to me. And so I started competing, and then I won.
Simple. Light work. I like it. Okay? I mean, but obviously the idea of wanting to be her, you know, or seeing someone obviously very close to you, but for all of us, seeing someone who looks like you or who embodies something that you aspire to be is such a motivating factor. And as we're talking about the evolving standards of beauty, I mean, we can just start even with hair, you know, and start from there about what that means to have our hair on stage winning. I mean, listen, I've had every kind of hair there is, okay? Let's just take a poll real quick, okay? Anybody in there ever had a Jerry curl? Oh, come on. No curls in the place? A couple of curls. Okay, that shows your age. Also, me too. But certainly there have been lots of conversations about that. And especially, I'm sure, Zozie, you've had lots of conversations about your hair. Yes, I'm sure. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? And I believe you were advised to wear a wig or at some point.
Yeah,
and what was that decision? What did you say? Girl, tell us the whole tea. Tell us everything. Tell us everything that happened. Did you slap her? What happened?
Well, I might have wanted to. My journey started with Miss South Africa. And when I made the decision to enter, you tell people around you that you want to do this. And the first question that they would ask me would be, oh, so are you going to do it like with your hair, or are you going to go for a wig? And it became such a continuous, question from everyone that I told that I'm doing this. And I thought to myself, I'm going onto a beauty platform. And the first thing that you ask me is, am I going to change my hair? Which says to me that you don't believe that the hair that I have now is worthy of being on a beauty platform. And I think that's when I started realizing that actually, you know what? I'm gonna go with this hair because if I listen to you, then I'm also believing in everything that you are saying. So I made that conscious decision to just go on with my natural hair because we are at a place where we are supposed to be breaking these beauty boundaries because women are multifaceted. We're not just one thing, and I felt that it was important for people to see it. And whenever I spoke about my natural hair, I said, it's not saying anything about people who have weaves because I've had them before. I've had wigs before, and
Okay, yes, it's fine.
Right.
We can do whatever we want.
Exactly, and
That's the whole point.
isn't that just the beauty
Yes.
of being a woman in 2020 is
Yeah.
that you can do whatever the hell you want and still look fabulous at it. And so that was my thing with my hair, wanting to step into this platform to say, actually, this hair is beautiful as well, and I won't change it for anything.
I mean, hallelujah. Okay? Yes.
Well, and I have to add, I think a few days after you won, you literally posted on your Instagram and said how cool it was that the Miss Universe crown was on your coarse texture.
Sitting on my kinky, coarse hairs.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that deserves a round of applause. Yes. I definitely believe in the, not just the evolving standard of beauty, but the evolving looks of beauty. And that, yes, we can certainly do anything. We can look any way we want to. And that the acceptance of that is actually the pursuit of what we're all trying to achieve. Is that if we're able to enter spaces and be exactly who we are, be seen as beautiful for those reasons, then that in and of itself is the win. So thank you very much for that. Because we're talking about beauty, I'm going to stick with it. We're still going to talk a little bit more about hair because I'm obsessed with hair also. Although you are all very brilliant and we know that it goes much deeper than the roots of your hair. However, there is so much context around it because there has been a lot of people who've been vilified for that. Certainly not just in the beauty space, but it translates into the corporate spaces and how we're able to see ourselves. Would any of you like to share about, maybe it's you, Nia, about your post experience and how you feel about what your hair then has represented or your expression of yourself has represented? And beautiful braids today, by the way, girl.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you look good.
Well, I remember throughout my year of being Miss America, I would actually get people that were upset that I wasn't wearing my hair natural for most of the time during my time as Miss America. And I think, again, that was a poignant thing for me because we shouldn't just be judging someone based off their hair regardless, no matter how they choose to wear it. And as Black women, we have the luxury of wearing it in many different ways, and that's something to be celebrated. And so certainly I ended up crowning the current Miss America in braids, and that was a conscious choice for me. And I'll continue wearing my hair natural, straight, wigs, like however I feel like I want to,
Yes.
because it's my choice.
That's right. Exactly. I mean, this is the beautiful thing. Well, we've talked a lot about that, but clearly, we know that there are deeper pursuits as well. Although I don't think talking about beauty or hair is superficial at all. It has such huge impact on our confidence in the way that we walk in the world, and so these conversations need to be had. But Chesley, we know that you are certainly more than your hair. Amen. Although you're a beautiful crown. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It takes a lot of product in it today.
But you've done so much in your career, even before being crowned. And as an attorney, as someone who has certainly fought for the rights of those who sometimes do not have a voice, can you tell us a little bit about your pursuits and what your presence in those rooms and now in your reign, what does that mean to you and then to the audiences that you serve?
Yeah, I think it means a lot. I think that it's important for us to know that, especially young Black women of color, we can be attorneys, we are attorneys, and we can be successful in the rooms that we walk into. When I was an attorney, when I was practicing in Charlotte, there were many rooms I would walk into, many courtrooms I would walk into where I was the youngest person, I was the only person of color, and the only woman in the room. And that can be very intimidating. It can be scary, especially when you're looking up at a judge that doesn't look like you, and you're looking across at opposing counsel and they don't look like you, and you walk in and people are like, "Where's the attorney?" Well, I'm right here.
Right.
Would you like to see my bar license? So I think there are tons of times where that can be very scary, and I think it's important that people see that you can be more than just, the court reporter. Not that that's anything wrong with being just a court reporter, but, like I said, there are times I walked into a mediation, the court reporter is like, "Well, ma'am, would you like to wait until your counsel gets here?" So I think, being in that space was important for me, and it was something that I dreamt of for a long time. And I think that being Miss USA now gives me the opportunity to talk about my experiences and specifically to talk about my clients. This year, I've gotten to talk more about Mr. Alfred Rivera than I have any other time. He's one of the clients that I worked with Brittany Barnett, who was released after serving 18 years in prison. He had a life sentence. And unfortunately, he was not released in time to witness his daughter's high school graduation. He was released about a month too late. And that, for me, is an important story to share so that people know how our justice system affects people who need help. And so people know that, like, the time is now. We don't have time to waste, and we need to make sure that people who need help receive it.
Yes. I mean, so fantastic. Thank you. Well, I also found out a fun fact about your attorney practices, in that you helped one of these ladies on this stage right here, even before you were ever crowned. And that shortly after Nia was crowned Miss America, you looked over her contract, and you were a tough negotiator, apparently. Okay? I mean, this example of sisterhood is amazing. Would either of you love to share that story?
Yes. So Chesley Christ is pretty much the most amazing person ever. So I remember right after I won, it was that next morning, I called you probably at 6 a.m. or something, and surprisingly, you're up. You're always up early. You're like an early bird. But I was like, hey, girl. And she's like, hey, Miss America, congratulations. And this is before she had even won Miss North Carolina USA. And I was like, I need your help. I trust you. I know you're practicing. Could you please help me look over these contracts? Because I felt like having a person who not only was a qualified attorney, but also a friend, and also someone who knows the pageant world and how these bigger organizations work. I mean, because I was the 92nd Miss America, so they've had a lot of them, and you're just kind of a pebble in all of it. So I wanted to make sure that I was represented and I had someone looking out for my best interest. So she agreed to it, and she got me pretty much everything I wanted out of my negotiation. I just think that speaks to her character. I mean, way before either of us even moved to New York, she mentored me and even let me borrow gowns. My first local competition that I won it in one of her gowns that she let me borrow. So she's a sweetheart, and
that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love that. I mean, it just points also to the sisterhood, and the multi-dimensional nature of how we move in the world. And so that is a really big testament, and I just love it. We could just pause there, right? Was that a sweet story? Okay. But Kaylee, let's talk about you also, because even though you are just beginning your journey and are in communications and pursuing that, we know that because of your background and where you came from, your parents, you also have a platform about letting everyone understand what it means to be someone in your position with, yes, your hair, but also everything that your background delivers. And so can you tell us a little bit about what your platform is and how you are pursuing it?
Yeah, so I have a social movement called We Are People First, and I started it in honor of one of my older sisters, Chantel. My sister Chantel is one of the funniest people you will ever meet, and she's also the happiest person you will ever meet. Like, she's constantly laughing and making fun of me. I don't find that funny, but a lot of people do. But my sister Chantel has multiple disabilities. My sisters were born 3 months premature, and so they were very small. And so she started a brain bleed, and that's basically how she developed her multiple disabilities. And growing up, I didn't realize that was different than most families. And so we would go out to the mall, and either parents would pull their kids away from my sister, or would stare at her, and I just kind of look at them because they're 8 years older. So I could have been 4, and I'd just stick out my tongue at them because I was like, why are you staring? Stop. And as I got older, I realized it's because not everybody has a personal relationship with somebody that has disabilities. And so I just wanted people to see my sister the way I do, for the loving, caring person that she is, even though she makes fun of me all the time because she thinks it's funny. I just want them to see her for her, and not because of her wheelchair, or because she can't see, or because she's deaf. And so I started a movement called We Are People First, which basically teaches people how to use people first language, how to take away the bias that people have when they see somebody with disabilities. So a really quick example of that is, instead of saying the autistic boy in my class is good at math, you would say the boy in my class who is good at math has autism, because you're highlighting and showcasing who they are and their skills, not the fact that they have autism. And so yeah, and one of my favorite things, I got to go speak at the Best Buddies National Conference, which was amazing. I had 2 of my own workshops, and then I spoke on their panel, which was just so full circle for me, because it was an organization that helped me be able to understand my sister, myself, and that there was other families out there like mine. And then I was on the other side of it, hopefully making others feel better as well. So that was absolutely amazing.
This is fantastic, man. Oh, y'all are just so impressive. I just love it all. Okay, Zosie, now, honey, okay. Listen, your answer during the competition, I thought, was remarkable, about taking up space, women in leadership. I mean, I think everybody remembers that moment, right? Y'all remember that? Okay. So clearly, you're Black South African, the first to be crowned, by the way. Okay, so that. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, South Africa. All right. Okay. I mean, that's fantastic. And also born during apartheid. And so your story and your history is clearly very complicated as well, but you're using your voice now in your platform to educate and have a platform of education. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, I felt it was so important for me to say what I said at the moment. And whenever I meet people, they're like, you said we must take up space. What exactly did you mean by take up space? And what I mean is, as women, as young girls, when we are born, we are not really taught to be leaders, whether it's directly or indirectly. By indirectly, I mean the way society programs us. The way you walk into a store to buy clothing for a young boy and a young girl. Young boys will have, powerful leader, all of that. And young girls will have, a little fluffy, cute message that really says nothing, And that's social programming. That's where it starts. And then as we grow up, we become so scared of our power. We become so scared of being ambitious because we get called names that men will not be called when they are, as ambitious as we are. And so by take up space, I mean, whatever room you walk into, make sure that people see you. You make sure that people hear you, and they must know that you are there because, a lady should not be seen but heard. I think that is one of the most dumbest thing anyone has ever said in their lives.
I agree.
So 100%. I literally, So what I meant by take up space is be visible. Do not be scared of your power. You have it, claim it. Use your voice. You have a voice to speak. So that's why I said what I said.
Listen. I'm taking up my space, okay? Anybody here taking up space? Yes, we are, correct. Okay. So, I mean, literally, I feel like I could just sit up here and just, keep y'all kidnapped forever. Won't do that. But we do have audience questions. But before we get to that, I'll just go down the line again. Because one of the most important things is I've talked to Paula about the organization of Miss Universe is that, I believe that the platform has the ability to be the standard for what we see for women's empowerment. Clearly, there's an evolution in the conversation that also needs to happen because, as we can just see from the 4 of you, there's not just a diversity in look, but a diversity in action, in cares about the world and about what you're going to do in the future. I'm really interested about what happens with alums. And how they go forward to impact the world, because I believe that the women who graduate from these organizations go on to really do change the world. And I am very proud of each of you. So before we take it to the audience, I would love to hear from you, what is next? What do you want to do next? And that way, maybe, we'll all help you get there. Nia, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start since I'm the first alum, I guess, out of the group. So I am super, super passionate. You mentioned earlier about, or I think it was Paul that mentioned the Sing for Hope organization I've partnered with, and that's just the beginning. So that organization is wonderful. They do place pianos all around New York City, and I've had the chance to visit hospitals with them, schools, and just raise awareness about music and advocating for the arts. That was my social impact as Miss America and still is. I've actually now moved into not just education, but women in music, and not just performance. I am a performer. I sing opera. I also sing R&B, many different styles. But it's not just about what you see on stage. It's about the behind the scenes as well. And so I've actually started a social impact initiative for women in music called Compose Her. You can visit composeher.org to find out more. But I'll just tell you a little bit. And it's basically meaning to empower composers like myself. So I have a degree in music composition, 2 degrees, but also producers, sound engineers, songwriters, people that you wouldn't normally see and that aren't visible. And honestly, there's normally men taking up those spaces, specifically white men. So it's just to create diversity and to let other women know that you can be a part of these behind the scenes in music too, as well as the performance side if that's what you choose to do. But we definitely need more awareness about that. And that's what I'm doing as I move forward.
You heard her say she has 2 degrees. Y'all heard that? Correct. Okay. Go ahead, sis. Yes.
Oh, okay. So, to be honest, I'm in college, so I'm finishing that, and then I can kind of figure out more where I'm going. So my major communications, its concentration is in film, television, and media production. So I'm really hoping to go somewhere in the entertainment industry, whether that be in front of a camera, behind a camera. I love it all. So I'm really starting to just try to figure out what I'm doing.
Yes. Yes.
And then hopefully in the future, something that I'm starting to look more into is turning my social movement into a 501c3. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Listen. Amazing. You're far ahead of where I was at your age, girl. Listen. And I'm 43, and I'm just still trying to figure it out, okay? Hey, all right.
So I've been doing some correspondent work for Extra TV, which I've really, really enjoyed. Ms. Paula said that I'm going to the Oscars after this, which is going to be so much fun. Get to dress up. Sorry, girl. I told her I'd pack her in my suitcase, but she's got a homecoming to go to. So I'd love to continue doing that and really expand it because I think it's really interesting and compelling, the stories that I get to hear from people. So I don't know, maybe I'll be the next Oprah. That'd be pretty dope.
Yes, say that too. Okay.
So yeah, I'd love to continue doing that and expand it. But on the other end, I've worked a lot with Dress for Success and a really important organization. I'm an impact ambassador for the organization, and I love talking about its benefit to women. So hope to continue working with that organization as well.
Well, like you, Boz, I'm probably still trying to figure it out myself. But what I always say is, whatever my future is, I believe it's going to be one of the most brightest and successful, because I truly believe in the power of my dreams, and I truly believe that whatever I touch and whatever I believe in with all of my heart, will be successful. And so I'm hoping that I get to learn more of myself this year, whether it's pursuing, the degree that I graduated from and getting into the corporate communication space, whether I'm going to be in a media space or, I'm still waiting to see what's going to happen, and
Yes.
I'm excited for it.
Okay, listen, the intentions are set, okay? Yes. Wishing you all the best in that. Okay, so now we have opened the floor for questions, or I'll continue my own personal conversation up here. You have a... Yes. Oh, I see you, boo. I see you.
Mike, thank you. I think for a lot of women who consider themselves strong women or intelligent women, sometimes like to reject things like beauty pageants, which we still, tend to call the pageant world. What was it that drew you all to the pageant world, made you say, I'm going to do this thing? And also as a Black woman, knowing the kinds of things that can happen and that will happen, saying, okay, the juice is worth the squeeze.
Well, for me, I think growing up I read a lot of books, and I remember reading about some of the greatest people in those books, and I knew that I wanted to be more and that I wanted to do more when I grew up, even though I didn't know what it was. I knew that as I grew up, I'd learn about what it is. And then I found out about a beauty pageant. And I realized what the platform that it is, and I realized that I could use it to whatever I wanted it to be, because people are following me. People want to hear what I want to say. And I soon recognized it as a leadership position instead of a beauty pageant. That's how I looked at it, and that's how I ended up doing it, because I had a voice, I had so much to say. And soon I did the pageant, and now here I am speaking to multiple people about things that I believe in and things that I feel important in the world.
Yes, exactly.
I totally agree with that. And I think that I searched for pageants for two reasons. One, because I rejected the notion that you have to be serious all the time, that women aren't, are one-dimensional, and that we can't be multifaceted and like nail polish and also walk into a courtroom and run it at the same time. So I really liked that idea. But on the other hand, I knew the benefits that you can get from pageantry. I mean, we talked about the importance of your on-stage question answer. There is nothing more scary than standing on a stage with a microphone in front of your face, in front of millions of people, with a question that's coming just like that. I think preparing and practicing for that helped me as an attorney when I have to stand in front of a judge who's going to ask me questions and argue with opposing counsel and be right. So there are so many things that preparing for pageants teaches you, and I knew that, and so I wanted to do it just to sharpen my own skills and really look for a sense of personal and professional development at the same time.
So great. Okay. Another question?
Good evening, queens. Good afternoon. And that includes you as well, Bubs.
Girl, you better tell it.
Yes, you're a queen.
Yes.
So my question is, just optically, looking at really all five of you all, I see five very different images of Black beauty, Black women and Black beauty, right? From the literal interpretations, the phenotype, your hair textures, your skin complexions. And I think there's so much power in the collective representation of all of this simultaneously. Chesley, you spoke about tokenism, and I think whether it's pageant world or real world, somehow we get caught up in it, right? There's one blonde, there's one light-skinned girl, there's one caramel girl, there's one chocolate sister. I'd like for each of you all, because you guys all represent, and Bose, I want to answer from you too, you all represent this momentary change in how society understands Black women to look and walk through space. But you guys are representing the frontier of it in many ways. So starting with Nia, I'd like an answer from, I want the moment you first realized you were beautiful, because society doesn't necessarily speak to it. You all are incredibly young, you too, sis. And I want to know the first moment that you realized that you represented beauty.
Well, my father is an amazing man, and I always remember him telling me that I was beautiful and he loved me from a young age. But somewhere along the line, AKA middle school, which is a really tough time, I think, in any person's life, I just didn't feel it anymore. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was being around blonde girls with long hair all the time when mine was kinkier and shorter, or I don't know if it was just hearing other people tell them they were beautiful but never hearing it from my peers, or not getting the few Black guys in school to even look at me. They were looking at the white girls. That's probably where it started, where I didn't feel that beauty anymore in myself that my father was always telling me that I had. But I remember for my 8th grade graduation present, my mom got me a Dooney and Burke bag, and I was like, thanks, Mom. But she also got me, more importantly, this little book of 180 devotions, and it was called Beauty is Soul Deep, and I read it from cover to cover. I still have it on my coffee table now, and that changed my life, just reading those devotions. And I'm a Christian, so reading how God viewed your beauty from the inside really just flipped the script for me. And from that moment on, I said, you know what? No matter what I look like, I'm going to feel beautiful on the inside, and that's what changed the game for me.
Yeah, for me, I didn't realize that my color was beautiful probably until only like 2 years ago or like a year ago. So I grew up basically going to an all-white school since 2nd grade. I was an extreme mommy's girl. She has blonde hair, blue eyes, like wanted to be exactly like her. My hair would get sun bleached. And so I was just like, oh, this strand of my hair is my mom's and this is my mom's. And I remember, well, I don't remember, but she told me a story that when she told me that I was half Black, I cried. Because I was like, it had nothing to really do with the skin tone part of it. It was more because I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm half dad. Like, I want to be exactly like you. Like, you're beautiful. You're what I see as beauty. And it took me a while to fully see when I came into myself, when I stopped straightening my hair was something that I had to do for myself to fully see myself for who I am. And in my junior year of high school, I had a friend in my art school who was also biracial, who had curly hair, but she was like the sassiest, like the coolest girl you'll ever meet, that was so confident in herself. And she's the one that was like your black is beautiful, girl. Like, what do you mean? And she is the one, like, she told me one day that when my hair was growing out from when it was straight, that she saw my curls coming in, like, at my roots, and I was like, oh geez, like, I gotta go home and straighten it. And she was like, no, like, grow out your hair and just like get the big chop and see how you feel. And so took me a little bit, but I grew it out for 1.5 years, and I got the big chop. And that's when I feel like I fully learned to love myself, because not only did my hair was super short at the time, so I had to first love my face, but then I also learned to love my hair as well.
I think my journey also had a lot to do with my hair, funny enough. I remember I started competing in pageants, and so I thought I needed extensions because my hair, I'd just gone through the big chop, my hair was pretty short, and so I wanted that long, straight, body wave kind of hair. And so I got those in, and then one day I was kind of tired of them, so I took them out, I wore my hair kind of natural, and I went to one of my classes at Wake Forest when I was still in law school. And I remember I sat down, and my professor interrupted the class and looked at me, and I can't remember whether he said I looked like Diana Ross or Shaka Khan, but it was one of the two. And he was saying it as a compliment, and so I was like, oh wow, thank you. And I think it was the first time I stopped comparing myself to others, and I stopped thinking I needed to meet this standard of beauty that I'd seen elsewhere, and knew that I could just be unique and individual and different from everybody else because my hair was different. And so I think that's the first time where I was like, okay, Chesley can be beautiful. Chesley doesn't need to be more pretty than Halle Berry, or she doesn't need to look like Sanaa Lathan. She can just be herself, and stop comparing herself to the nose or the mouth or the lips or the eyes of somebody else. You can just be yourself and be unique, and stand alone in a feeling of beauty.
Yeah, I think the people we grow around us teach us a lot about ourselves and how to think and how to look at ourselves. And so I grew up, amongst a lot of women. I have 3 sisters, my mom and my grandmother, and, all black women who are extraordinary, confident and fierce and beautiful. And so I always saw myself through them. And I think growing up, I always knew that I was beautiful. And like Nia said, it's only when you grow up and you leave home and you step out that you realize that, it's not the same out there. People view beauty differently. And like I said, you open up TV when they're counting the 100 most sexiest women, you're like, someone who looks like me. I cannot find someone who looks, and I think that's when the doubt starts coming in. But I think for me, my system has always been my family, and the women in my family was just kept on reminding me about, what beauty is. And for me, so beauty sometimes is just not like an outer thing, it's an aura and what you present to the world. And I'm lucky enough to come from, South Africa, a country that has one of the most powerful women, in my opinion, in the world. And when I read about them and when I learn about what they did for South Africa, what they did to fight, for our freedoms, I look at them and I see beauty, and I see myself in them because I come from them. And so I think that's where I've always seen that I was beautiful, through all the women that I've met in my life.
Oh, man. Okay. So now let me talk about myself. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to answer just a little bit differently because, yes, at some point in my life, I also happened upon my beauty, whether it was having to really define it for myself, because yes, like most of us, the outside world was certainly not affirming our beauty. But for me, because I have been in many corporate spaces in which women like me are not in leadership positions and certainly are not respected when they walk in looking like this, I felt that in order to really harness my own power in those spaces, I actually had to show up as myself, as my full, beautiful self. And that meant that I had to, show up in whatever context of hair I decided that day, okay? Because sometimes it was just a different way, you know what I mean? Or even in the way that I express myself, certainly within my culture. I find myself bicultural. I was born in the United States of America, but my parents are originally from Ghana. And so that means bringing along culture in many different types of ways. And that, to me, at least in this very moment in time, I am so proud to be in the seat I'm in. That I've had 3 chief positions at 3 different companies, all within this. And that, I feel, is a standard of beauty I'm proud of. Thank you for that question. That was great. Okay, we'll take our last question. Judy, who shall it be? Okay, yes, exactly. Okay, 2 questions. Your question and then your question.
Hello. Hey. So I want to take the conversation a little bit further, and I know you mentioned before natural hair being vilified and people being vilified for their hair. So obviously the conversation goes beyond beauty, like we said. And you still see little boys, little girls, you know, getting in trouble at school, getting kicked off teams. Like there are all these horrible things you see in the news, and now we've been seeing different states banning hair discrimination. And so obviously, Chesley, you would also see this from a legal standpoint, but from the rest of you as well. What does representation mean in those spaces? And how does having the 4 of you sitting here and representing these huge titles, what does that do to like help our nation move forward and, you know, put these legal actions into place?
I think it's so important. You talked about what representation means in those spaces. I think that one of the instances of hair discrimination that I remember recently was there's a boy who had sort of long dreads. Do you guys remember this? And they wouldn't let him walk in graduation because he had dreads. That story would have been completely different if the principal had dreads. So, I mean, that just speaks to the power of representation, how important it is for us to see varying looks and types and hairstyles of Black in different spaces. Because, I mean, who made a rule like that? You know, they had to run it by some administrator somewhere. And how important is it for us to have somebody looking from a different perspective at those different rules? So representation is very, very important.
Okay, we'll go to our very last question.
Thank you so much for letting me ask this question. I guess I'm like an Asian representation here. Thank you so much. I'm so touched by all of you. I think this is a very impactful moment for myself too, because I'm wrestling all this question on identity and beauty and all these things on my own too. So I am a model, and I really believe that modeling is about role modeling. And I started something called Arise and Shine Models, which is empowering young women to know that they can look exactly like who they are and they can be who they really are. So I think you all are great role models, so I'm really appreciating. And I find that like a common point that you all shared, and I was like looking at, so what this beauty in the Miss Universe organization trying to get at, probably like these 5 things I really hope to share with you guys. Summarizing what qualities you guys have is purpose, social impact, character, like it's huge in character, like how you guys share that, like the testimony of like how you guys live life, and confidence, like all of these, like just so powerful. And I think most girls out there think that beautiful is just on the looks. So I'm just wondering, and also myself, like I struggle with that sometimes with the modeling industry. So I just wonder how you guys overcome just the appearance side of you, especially you look so differently. And for my case, I feel like I have to look unique in order to overcome, feeling not good enough. But yeah, how do you guys overcome that and be who you really are right now?
Yeah, I feel like, if I'm being honest, I feel like it's an everyday struggle that you always have to overcome. And that may just be personal for me, but it's like every morning, like you look at yourself and you stare at yourself and you're like, oh, there's things I want to change. But the thing that I learned is like, I always have to tell myself, I'm the only me. I'm the only person that looks like me. And so I have to be the best version of me I can be. So I've really started saying positive affirmations to myself, because everybody has something about themselves that they want to change. And I think I find my own sanity in knowing that I'm not the only one that can feel unconfident in myself sometimes. And knowing and looking back and like, I've done so many amazing things. Like I walked in today and I was like, oh my goodness, where am I? I saw this on TV one time. And so I get so excited. And so it's like realizing like, you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, like, yes, I look unique. Yes, I am amazing. And I know how strong I am. So I really believe in the purpose of positive affirmations and telling yourself and knowing that it's okay not to feel confident all the time, because nobody really does. And I believe that because, yeah.
Because she knows.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so we have come to the end. However, I was so excited about this particular conversation that I had to call one of my favorite Black women entrepreneurs who is a designer, and she created a jacket that I bought once that I felt had a message that I would love to gift to each of you. Along with Paula also. So I have a gift for you. If you guys would bring it.
I love
And the designer is Kalila Wright, who is standing back there. Kalila, can you wave your hand, please?
Thank you.
So we can see you.
Thank you.
Yes. So if you can open it, because, I just want to see
We're
it.
going to open it? We're going to open
Yes.
it? Okay.
You want me to hold that?
Struggling. This is... Girl,
Exactly. She's fast. Yes. Queen, don't be afraid to rule like a king, okay? Yes, or a chief, or a prince, or we're taking all the titles. We're going to take all the titles. So, Kalila, thank you so much for your work, for your representation. We hope that each of you, well, look, I have mine too, girl. I brought mine from the closet, okay? Because I want to be like y'all. I have mine too, hey. But I do hope that for each of us in this room, that we take this message forward, because the queen is a title. However, we are going to rule in every capacity, in every space, in every walk that we take. So I hope that you are all inspired by this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.